Halito, and welcome to Anumpali. I am Payton Guthrie, your host. And to kind of start off the beginning, this month's installment will be a little bit different. Usually we have stories of tradition, of news and cultural related items. This month, we're just going to have an interview. We have with us today Greg Glassman, the founder of CrossFit, and Chance Adams, the director of our wellness centers here at the Choctaw Nation. I wanted to start off by saying Yako Ki, Greg. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. And you too, Chance, as well. Thank you for making time for us today.
Absolutely.
So I guess let's just dive into it. You've been in Choctaw country for a little bit of time now, Greg. How are you seeing our structure of our health systems and our wellness centers? How is that system going to be able to apply CrossFit and hopefully a wide audience?
Potentially, ideally. I mean, all the pieces are here. This looks kind of like one of my kids' puzzles. You know, I got 28 big pieces, and they're all there, and flipping over, snapping together. We just some networking, some assembly, but you have facilities, you have training talent, you have supportive and understanding physicians and medical staff, and you have need, and then there's willingness on everyone's part, and so this is perfect. I think this is ours to blow. It seems ideal. Mm-hmm. It seems ideal.
Chance, how you feel? I mean, Greg Glassman, founded it, and now he's saying we're great to go.
Yeah, so I think we have an opportunity, a huge opportunity at our hands, and like Greg said, we only fail if we give up and don't work together to accomplish what we're setting out to do, and that's really to have a significant impact on the chronic conditions that we experience as tribal members. Now, Greg, you have a little bit of ties to Choctaw. Can you elaborate on that just a bit?
Sure, I can. My mom was in all of her family from Choctaw County, Alabama, and my mom's there at this minute. And I'm glad this is coming out because I'd promised her that I would mention it because she's called me 4 or 5 times to make sure I would. But my mother's father, so my grandpa's mother, was a full-blooded Choctaw Indian.
Very well.
And she married a red-headed, hazel-eyed guy from the woods.
Very cool.
And so this is important to me from even that aspect.
Absolutely.
Usually the studies say that Native American populations, indigenous peoples, have higher rates of obesity, higher rates of diabetes, higher rates of hypertension, heart failure, cancer, just all across the board. You've traveled the world a lot. You've seen different people groups. You've implemented CrossFit in multiple areas, in different countries and different cultures. Is this a similar issue that you're seeing kind of across the world? Are you thinking CrossFit is, or the idea of it is kind of just one size fit all?
Yeah. Yes. And similar, maybe identical, but with less resources, and I'll come back to that. We've talked with the Maori, we've talked with Hawaiians, Mexican American population, black communities, and people of color suffer disproportionately from chronic disease. The genetic component, I think the genetic component, it's best if we look at it as it's not a weakness, it's an intolerance to a toxic lifestyle. And that's a very different thing than having a genetic disorder. Mm-hmm. You do not tolerate a toxic lifestyle. And it makes it all the more important to do something about it. But let me tell you what, again, to tie this back to your first question, there's the 44th Congressional District in California is the least well part of California. It has a diabetes rate approximate to what I'm hearing here. It's a black and brown community, but there are, I believe, 750,000 people in the district. I think it was just under 1 million, and they don't have collectively, and this is in Los Angeles County, California, they don't have near the resources to address the problem that you do. We wanted to do something there. Mm-hmm. We started with getting rid of a corrupt candidate that was taking money from the American Beverage Association, and then ditched out on a critical vote in the health committee on a soda warning label. And so we got good representation for the district now, but I still need more. I don't have 7 gyms. I don't have 14 wellness centers. I don't have a sympathetic and understanding medical support. So we have an opportunity to do something here that we can And I feel certain we'll be successful here. If not, it'll be our own shortcomings. But we take our successes here and we can go other places and make this a global model.
So this is kind of the test run of a much more, of a larger idea.
You have a combination of a need that could hardly be more dire, coupled with all of the pieces that I would need to do something about this. And this isn't one of these things, we don't need $1 million, we don't need $5 million, we don't, it's just us, everyone here. We have a profound medical problem that has an obvious and a singular non-medical solution. And we just don't need a lot of anything else.
So Chance, I mean, was it 6 years ago we brought CrossFit into the Choctaw Nation systems?
This February will be our 5-year anniversary of our
5 years.
affiliate. So we're coming up on 5 years.
So implementing this 5 years ago to where we are now, we have Greg Glassman here sitting in one of our boxes. What caused you to think this would be a great thing to introduce to the Choctaw Nation?
Well, one, my background's in health promotion and education. And once I came out of my undergrad and crossed over and got exposed to CrossFit, it was like, okay, everything kind of made sense at this point. I know how to get this into the communities. Now I know what we need in those communities to overcome some of the chronic conditions and the things that run rampant amongst our tribal population. Now to see that grow in the amount of, in 5 short years is absolutely tremendous. It shows our commitment, our wellness staff's commitment, our leadership's commitment to what we have going on here, and to the issues that we see day to day in our tribal population. So, go off what Greg said, there's a huge opportunity here, not just to change what we have going on and what we're experiencing as tribal members, but to change the world.
Mm-hmm. It's an opportunity, and more importantly, it's a need.
Absolutely.
This needs to happen for our people if we want to try to move on into the future. What are some boundaries or some issues, some obstacles that you see, Chance, being here and working here the last 5 years, trying to implement this stuff, that may be difficult for our tribal population to kind of fully adapt to?
That's a really tough question. Actually, there is no financial barrier to our wellness centers. If you're a tribal member, you can come here or to any of our facilities for virtually free. We've eliminated that. Access is still is a bit of a struggle for some people, not being in close proximity to a wellness center and whatnot. But we're working on those as well. We're continuing to add facilities to, bring. We have 7 affiliates in our 14 facilities. So one of my job is to grow that. Mm-hmm. We want them in all 14 eventually. So, we're setting the stage to do that. We're pretty progressive in doing so, and we'll get there.
And Payton, I want to add something to that. I wouldn't want anyone to get the impression that, I've come here and now we're going to do something great. Something great is happening here and has been well underway. I have already met and listened to stories about people that have overcome their diabetes, thrown it in reverse and left. What I can only do is give support and let you know that you've got everything here. You're doing it already. Let's just accelerate it.
Absolutely.
And let everyone know of the successes of the Carol Ayers and of the Jennifer Woods. And I mean, these are amazing stories. And lives are saved one at a time, not in mass. And the process is well underway here, well underway. You can already pat yourself on the back for the achievements that I'm seeing.
The places you've gone to and the things you've talked about, it seems there's a direct correlation with job opportunity and poverty with diabetes and obesity. Our area of the state was designated a promise zone through the Obama administration. It's an area of low economic impact, and Choctaw Nation is doing its best to try to build up the communities. Chief Batten would say, if we're not investing in Batiste, no one's investing in Batiste. So it's kind of a point of effort for us. So how do we make these communities strong to be self-sufficient? How are these other communities outside of these areas, how are they trying to address some of those poverty, low-income needs?
I just tell you that there's not a lot to be celebrating. The resources problem that you have here is greater a lot of places. There's something magical that's happened with your 14 centers and your 7 CrossFit gyms and the 20 or so trainers you have. And that's unprecedented.
Yeah.
That's unprecedented.
We've talked about, we have the solution, the CrossFit solution to chronic disease. Can you elaborate on like what that looks like nutritionally even?
Yeah, to talk about the problem and a solution, to talk about the solution, you have to understand the problem. And the problem has at its root cause sedentarism. That's just sitting on the couch, not getting exercise.
Right.
That usually accompanies watching TV, I would guess, for many people. And then the other piece is excessive consumption of refined carbohydrate, and that would be, let's start with the sugars. The soda pop, high fructose corn syrup, table sugar, the desserts, pasta, cake, cookies, the fried bread with honey and,
Right.
Yeah. And that makes the problem, the solution simple and even the problem simple, but there's still an enormous difficulty. The solution isn't complex and the problem's not complex. The damage is complex and the solution is simple but hard. And the hard part is what? Getting off the couch and not eating dessert.
Yeah.
And that is a challenge, and we can all pretend like it's not, and there's, in the CrossFit community, we got a lot of people that just have nothing to do with that stuff, but they will also admit to you that there's an affinity, that they're drawn, that it would be a problem. Even our Nicole Carroll, who's our training director and one of the most amazing age group athletes in the world, and has been for 15 or 20 years, she says that her fear of missing a workout is that she'll miss another one, it'll be the decline. So she fears sedentarism. And I know we've published on her reduction of carbohydrate, the article she wrote on that, she wanted it entitled "Getting Off the Crack," and so that's what sugar was like to her. And this is from a superstar, and so we all understand that when I tell you all you have to do is get off the couch and don't eat dessert, that is simple, but no, it's also hard.
Yeah.
Simple and hard, and community makes it likely to happen. Community. And so you have someone that wants you off the couch, wants you in the gym. And baby steps, that first step.
Yeah, and historically as Choctaw people, we haven't had these issues. I mean, we talked last night about, the Tushka spirit, the warrior spirit of the Choctaws, and this isn't something that we've lived with forever. This isn't part of our DNA. We've only experienced some of these issues in the last, say, century or so. So, getting off the couch, getting on the couch and getting on the carbs has really caused a lot of these issues. Yes. And obviously the solution is to get back off.
Yeah.
The point in all this, like culturally, it's a simple solution, as you said, but it's difficult because you're asking for a major cultural and behavioral change out of sub-people groups.
Yes.
What happened to the Trail of Tears, we were agricultural-based society, we were matriarchal. It was very much plant-based foods until the Trail of Tears happened. And once it happened, it switched everything on its head. We became patriarchal instead of matriarchal. We started eating carbs and stuff. But once it moved these Native American groups from their homelands where they're self-sufficient to their new lands where they became codependent on the federal government to supply them with funds and with food and with programs, it basically set up a welfare state to a certain degree of these people. The same thing for the African Americans from the slaves. There's a book called The Warmth of Other Suns, the second transition where they moved from the South to Chicago and Detroit and LA to kind of move. But they weren't able to prosper in the way that they thought. And so there was 100 years or so of creating this new type of culture, this government-dependent culture that has kind of wrecked our society. It's only in the last 20 years that these Native American governments have been able to stand on their own legs that you're seeing. Hopefully you get a chance to tour our food distribution center. Things are changing. Yes. Better foods are being offered. But it's only in the last 20 years or so. And that's being met with a lot of resistance because you've got 80 years of fry bread, flour, this deep sugars addiction that we've acquired from this major historical trauma that our people have sustained. Do you have any idea how we solved that problem?
Well, look, I can't imagine anything more anathema, have a more chilling or extinguishing effect on the Tushka culture than sedentarism in deadly disease. You know, you want to take the warrior out of someone, make them fat and sick.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine any problem that being healthy wouldn't make it more likely that we could remedy. And then there's the financial burden of having half the population moving towards type 2 diabetes. And I'll just mention, because I think this point needs to be made. I talk about diabetes, but if we eliminate the cause of diabetes, we'll eliminate obesity, we'll eliminate some cancers, we'll eliminate a bunch of heart disease and stroke, we'll push Alzheimer's way off, a bunch of good things will happen. The thing has to be blood sugar control. Mm-hmm. And I don't harp on obesity because I can make you skinny and still leave you vulnerable to diabetes. Okay, we got 500 million Chinese facing that prospect right now. They're going to be skinny diabetics, a lot of them. What we want to do is we want to cut the blood sugar. We want to return to health, and I think that paves the way for a renaissance of the Tushka creed. Mm-hmm. Well, doesn't it seem to you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
And we have a chance here to do something special like that.
Yeah.
How
Hey,
do we?
This problem extends outside of the American Indian and Black, Brown, Maori. I just saw today where 71%, 74% of kids between 17 and 34, the age of service, it's 71, 74% of them are ineligible for military service because of criminal past or lack of fitness, just being sick. You know, I think it was 71%. You know, that's devastating. Mm-hmm. That's devastating. And I'm not even talking because of the military aspects of not being able to have a operational ready, healthy force, but just to think that larger chunk of our kids have gotten in trouble. And I'll share with you that the ones that are out of shape have chronic disease, and the ones that are drug addicted also have chronic disease, because drug addiction is another chronic disease.
Right.
Chronic diseases are willful behaviors, and there's something wonderful about that. It means that we and we alone can fix them, and that's why I say this isn't a medical problem. It's a medical problem. It doesn't have a medical solution. The solution comes out of the will. And it's when I get up off the couch and commit to not going back, and turn the TV off, go for a walk, and then go to the fridge and have some turkey breasts and apple and some cashews instead of whatever else it might have been.
Chance, what's your vision for this? What's your vision for our interconnected health system, wellness center, food distribution, policies?
Well, it goes along with our tribe sustainability. We see a lot of tribes that they're losing memberships. They won't even be in existence in 10, 20, 30, 40 years. We want to be around forever, right? So we want to sustain our tribe for years and years to come, and this could have the most impact in doing so. Not just sustaining, but returning to the ways of our, the ways we've been historically, vibrant, thriving, traditionally fit and healthy people. And this could really set the stage for that. And again, we do it here, we can change the world and show people how to do it.
We had a somewhat of a production dinner last night, and one of the staff went to the restroom. They saw a Sharps container for diabetic needles, and it's something that us being in our facilities and stuff, we don't quite think about, because we always want to make things as easy as possible for our members. Like, we're taking care of you. And to have an outside person say, that I remember those growing up in the hospital, but never just in a restroom. It's been somewhat normalized, this chronic disease. I mean, it's the willfulness that's been willfully normalized by our people to a certain degree.
And I would want to add that this comes from a handful of people we're very close to. Michael and Mary Dan Eads, real protein power, and also acutely aware of what the problem is and what the solution needs to be. They have articulated several times that diabetes is civilization ending. It has had that impact. The Eads are of the view that's what happened to the Egyptians. We have pretty good records of their production and consumption because they were kind of an industrial food state. They were growing food for the masses. and they were warehousing grains and dried fruits. And at the end of the civilization, what we know from the exhumation of their deceased, the paleo pathology, that they had the signs of type 2 diabetes started appearing in teenagers, in early teens. And the Eads are of the view that is what put an end to the Egyptians. That they had just so much sickness that they weren't able to function. But look at it, if you got 74% of your 17 to 34-year-old force has serious health issues, and I'll just lump all of those disqualifying, either the criminal part due to, that's all due to drugs, and the obesity and all that. That's 71% are in ill health. You can't do anything with that. Can't do that. You'll spend your resources trying to address the dying instead of building schools, universities.
I'll look on Ozymandias in a different light now. I'll think about it from a diabetic standpoint, the empire wasting away.
Yeah.
So Chance, from Ozymandias to this box, how are we getting people here? I mean, that seems to be the biggest issue, getting people in the door. How are we doing it?
Yeah, so we run multiple challenges throughout the year. We partnered with the Whole Life Challenge. We do some different things like that, getting people in. We do incentives. We have a thing here in this particular facility called Wellbucks. You come in, you get an initial from your coach that you're in class, and you bank those. You can use them to buy Choctaw CrossFit apparel, whatever the case may be, hats, water bottles, whatever the case may be. So, but beyond that, we're building relationships, and that's really what it comes down to. Is when we encounter an individual among our community that may be experiencing one of these chronic conditions, I mean, our job is to form a relationship with them, and kind of take them under our wing. Come in, get them into the facility. Whether they're doing yoga, whether they're doing CrossFit, doesn't really matter to me. That I want you on the right path, and wherever you start is a start, and I'm willing to work with that. And so that really what we're looking to do is just embrace the people in our community, get them in here, get them started, help them the best way we can.
Chance, do you have more people participating now than you did, say, at the beginning of the year in January, and there are more in January than there were, say, in June the year before?
Yes. So we grow exponentially year to year. But what the interesting thing is in this particular facility, we see 7,500 to 8,000 visits a month. Wow. 40% of those are coming through our CrossFit program.
Okay.
The interesting part is in any fitness facility, you peak in January and you just kind of trickles out until December, and then everybody's ready for New Year's resolutions again, and they come back. Our CrossFitters have the most retention. When we're in December, we're still at 40% of that 40% still here.
Yes.
And that speaks to the community. It speaks to the effectiveness of the programs, and the camaraderie that's built in these walls. And it's, in essence, that's why we're here.
It's funny you mention that. In commercial gyms forever, the thing was dead in December because everyone's Christmas partying and getting fat, and then packed in January, and then dead in February, right? The CrossFit gyms don't do that. They're actually busy in December.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what we've seen. I mean,
yeah, that's fantastic. Well, so I asked because you asked me, what are you going to do? And I get asked often, what are you going to do? And I said, I'm doing it. It comes without fanfare, and it comes without much attention. But I always wondered when I was in the commercial gym environment how I would ever get clients if I were outside of it. And once I finally got thrust from my last commercial gym and forced into my own gym, I learned where clients come from, and they come from people that got good results. Clients come from clients and from nowhere else. And so there may be nothing we can do. There's no drum we can bang that makes them come in. But I would be shocked if it were any different here, that the people that were coming because they knew someone that got a great result, and that they're looking for what they got.
Great.
You're seeing that?
Yeah, that's 100% true. I mean, that's what we see day in. It's my brother, it's my cousin, it's my grandmother that's coming in, and we're figuring this stuff out, and we're picking up steam, and word's getting out.
So the culprit in all this seems to be sugar.
And public enemy number one.
We all know it is. Everything always says it is. Why has this not been addressed on the national level?
Well, it has in subcurrents, and I do think the tide is changing, but one of the things that gives me reason for optimism is that there has been some stories of appalling and devastating corruption on the nutrition front. And these have been reported internationally. Anahad O'Connor at the New York Times, and they've gone to the Guardian in Great Britain and big papers in Australia. But people have been paid to get it wrong, and it's corruption. It's corruption is the answer.
I mean, I'm on Facebook and stuff, and you see videos of Coke being able to eat rust off a nail, and we're just drinking it by the gallons, and it just seems common sense. Like, hey, we shouldn't do this. We should drink water. Or it seems almost like this big wave of impossibility that you're fighting against.
Yeah, but we have the fastest growing chain in business history. Mm-hmm. New gym comes online every 2 hours and 24 minutes, and they're all doing the same thing, you know. And so, government and the CDC and the NIH and the soda scientists offer a different view of things. We're winning. I've got something rapidly growing and self-replicating, and it's the truth. It's words gotten out. Words gotten out. You won't take someone who's overweight, hypertensive, elevated triglycerides, and has a glucose tolerance problem. You're not going to fix them and then be able to confuse them about how they fixed it, what happened. And whether you're a physician or a truck driver, the takeaway from that N of 1, from the anecdotal personal experience, is that they got it wrong, and they have, and Chance and crew, the Choctaw Nation has it right. I heard today from your crew of your doctors that they were going to be supportive, that this made sense, and that they're going to start sending people over here by prescription. Perfect. That's a huge support for us. Huge support for us. This isn't the doctor's fault. They don't have workout or anything in the bag that's going to keep you out of the fridge. And seeing you every 90 days, which is quite a bit, is not enough. And so what needs to happen is an alliance between the doctors that are seeing these patients in a position to tell them meaningfully, believably, that you keep this up and you're going to die. I just heard one of your RNs at the medical thing. They talk about having to get shots in her eyeballs for diabetes and to prevent blindness. And she said the doctor says that, and she said it was way more painful than childbirth. But she told me that a lot of diabetics go blind just because they won't do the 3 series of shots. And so they'd rather be blind than have that experience again. That's powerful. And then for someone to be able to tell someone that and go, but listen, you could just go to the gym. As tough as not eating a Snickers bar and going to the gym is, getting shots in your eyeballs. Like, and can you imagine getting shots in your eyeballs and then not going back and going blind, so you kind of got the best of the worst of both, It's so sad.
It is.
It's so sad and so unnecessary.
Well, Greg Glassman, Chance Adams, I want to say Yako Key. Thank you very much for taking time to be on Numpally with me.
Thank you.
We were very proud and we're very excited to have you here and to use this system to help cure our people.
I'm proud and honored. You're doing the work.
Awesome.
You're doing the work. I'm just here to let you know that it's a beautiful thing. I recognize it. The community's gonna recognize it. We're gonna show the world, and we're gonna keep going.
Absolutely.
Well, everyone, this has been Payton Guthrie of Numpally. For our guest again, Greg Glassman, Chance Adams, Yako Key, next month.